Tune into the final take with MK Mariner every Saturday on the Alcamba Times and experience extensive conversations on a variety of topics, including national and international headlines, breaking issues, and major developments in politics, business, innovation, science, and sports, along with inspiring stories and expert analysis to provide a comprehensive understanding of the news.
Hello and warm welcome to yet another exciting edition of the final take with me, Seni Marina, going live to explore a week of new current affairs. Here is a look at what's coming up. Youth and sport development in the Gambia. We discuss the challenges, progress, and gains made in the sporting industry with Youth and Sport Minister Honorable Bakari Baji, asking how our existing national programs are empowering youth to discover their fullest potential. Also on the program, an overview of the Gambia's foreign policy and global standing. Gambian scholar, diplomat, and global leader, Prof. Dr. Alaji Manta Drame, tell us if there is a need to review the country's foreign policy after recent happenings in the diplomatic field and the impact of transformation, repositioning the Gambia on the international scene. This is the final take also engages Fatoumata Sandeng, former spokesperson of the Jammeto Justice Movement and CEO of Solo Sandeng Foundation, in a special conversation on the trial of Jungula Michael Correa in the United States, an effort to bring Jammeh to justice. That's the final take with me, Seni Marina, exploring a week of news and current affairs. When we come back after this break, thanks for joining us.
Tune into the final take with MK Mariner every Saturday on the Alcamba Times and experience extensive conversations on a variety of topics, including national and international headlines, breaking issues, and major developments in politics, business, innovation, science, and sports, along with inspiring stories and expert analysis to provide a comprehensive understanding of the news.
And wherever you are, thanks for being with us. We start with the youth and sports sector, which is witnessing some challenges as the country focuses on harnessing opportunities for its youth population. A new approach investing in all national sporting entities. Earlier this week, the ministry validated its newest strategy to address the sector need going forward. Let's get more on that and new initiative boosting the sector from the Youth and Sport Minister, Honorable Bakari Baji, who joined us live from Banjul on this program. Thanks for joining us, Honorable, and tell us how crucial this moment for youth and sport development as you launch a new strategy for your ministry, Mr. Baji.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Mane, and thank you for having us here, and of course, good evening or good day to your viewers and the followers of Alcamba Times. It's good to be here. Like you said, on Wednesday, we validated the new sport policy for the country, which is running from 2024 to 2034. It is a 10-year policy. And yes, it outlines quite a number of things, a little bit of shifting of focus from some of the things that we were doing in the past to what we think the country needs right now, especially selecting a few number of disciplines, sporting disciplines, to focus on them, and as well as focusing on the infrastructure development or prioritizing infrastructure development over participation in international competition so that we can address the deficiency in the infrastructure across the country. But by and large, we were happy that most of the stakeholders were present and they have adopted this new approach, but they were involved from the beginning, from the time we started this whole policy sometime last year.
Okay. Can you tell us some of the key highlights in this report that is intended to address the challenges facing youth and sport in the country?
Yeah, well, the highlights of one is prioritizing. Sorry, is talking about the general framework of sports and what associations are expected to use as a guide, including the ministry, the government, and some of the partners, the development partners that are focusing on sports. We looked at issues relating to sports funding. because that's one of the major aspects. If you want to succeed in sports, the funding must be there. And that's something that the country has been grappling with over the past decades, not having an adequate budget. So funding is there. We looked at also talent identification and talent development. So how do we ensure that not just in the greater Banjul area, but across the country, there are activities that are ongoing to be able to identify the talents that we have across the country and use those talents or those young people to develop them so that they become our representative in the future. But again, we also looking at using sports as a means for the maintenance of peace and development. So we have this concept called peace for sports for peace and development. So these are all the areas that we are looking at, and we believe that this policy would help guide all of us to focus on the most important thing. But like I said at the opening, my best bet among this is the infrastructure, because that's supposed to be the foundation on which sports development is anchored on.
Absolutely. Mr. Baji, now the Gambia recently returned from the Olympics where we participated in 6 different events. Are you looking to extend this with more sporting entities, especially in the global competition? Because there were a lot of areas that the Gambia could have participated than, the 6 that they already participated. Yeah.
No, of course, that's our hope for the country. I mean, Olympics is every 4 years. And, of course, we have made some improvements over the last Olympics in Japan to the one that we did now, from having 4 athletes that qualified for the last Olympics in Japan to registering 7 that qualified in this recent Olympics in Paris, and also having more women, participate in the Olympics compared to the other one that we have at the previous time. So these are some improvements. But of course, like you said, we participated in swimming in female. Yeah. That's Aminata there who did for the first time, and we also participated in taekwondo, or qualified to take part in the taekwondo again for the first time. So yes, next Olympics in the next 4 years, we look forward to having more athletes. But again, like I said, one of the reasons that would make us get that is building the local talent, because again, some of these athletes are Gambians, but they are foreign based, and they had the opportunity to train in taekwondo, in swimming, and they qualify. We can be able to do the same thing in the country to be able to have more, because Olympics is not like other activities where you can just file any athlete. It's a qualification base, and the qualification is high level. You must be able to get a certain percentage if you swim. I mean, certain minutes in running, in athletics, and all of them before you qualify. And that's what makes it difficult for some of the countries to even get the number that we have. But yeah, we're looking forward to having more.
Exactly. Talking about infrastructure, this has been a huge challenge in the Gambia, because currently the country is without a good standard independent stadium and also indoor swimming facilities. What efforts is your ministry or the government doing to ensure that we have a standard footballing stadium and other infrastructural facilities to enable our sportmen and women to compete with their peers at the international level?
Well, the first thing that this government did is to introduce a levy that would help in terms of getting the funding. Because if you look at our annual budget, I mean, the country's annual budget, the Ministry of Youth and Sport is allocated 0.04%. Of the budget for the sector. That's a very minimal amount, and that only goes towards taking care of operational issues essentially, and not do much. But in the recent years, we've seen how government have been investing in sports in a way that has not happened in the past, in all sports, in football, in volleyball, in athletics, and we've also seen how we're investing in improving some of the infrastructure in the rural area. So this is all because of the question, what are we doing to address it? Because we realize that you cannot do funding. I mean, you cannot do sports without the required funding. And unfortunately, unlike other countries where there is a huge private sector investment in sports, in the Gambia, the case is different. We don't have, or there is very minimal, if any, private sector support that is coming into the sports. And that's not what we see in other countries. The national teams are mostly adopted by certain companies and they invest. And we sometimes you understand is the economic situation of those companies as well. So government have to come in to take care of a lot of costs. And that's why our investment in the teams, in participation, has been one of the major obstacles. So, and that's what now we are thinking. Do we continue to spend more money in international participation and not win a medal, or one person wins a medal? Or do we minimize those international participation and invest some of those little resources in developing the infrastructure across the country with the hope that in 3 years or 4 years' time, we would have had the infrastructure that the country needs and we will be able to develop the talent because we don't lack talent. We have it here. The problem is nurturing that talent to be able to go and represent us well. And that's what the policy shift is now looking at.
Yeah, Honorable, you talk about the private sector investment in sport. This is very key and crucial in any country. If you want to attain, highest standard, in a competition, you must invest in the infrastructure. Why you think the private sector is not coming forward to, complement government effort, in the sporting field?
Well, I think the first thing is it's about the mindset. It's about the concept of what sport is and how important sport is to some people. That for me, that's the beginning because you must be able to value something and understand its importance and how much it contributes towards the socio-economic development of the country for you to be able to take it serious and look forward to investing in it. But sports, it's not that much here. We love it. We all love it. But when it comes to the investment, people don't see it in that angle. They see it more, well, not people, some people see it more as like if you pardon me to say it in all of Yifi Fola, Yifi Halayla. And and because they think it's Yifi Fola, they don't understand that it's not just about recreation, but it's about an industry of itself, where you can invest and be able to develop millionaires and be able to improve the living conditions of young people and their families and their communities. That is what is lacking. That's number one. Number two is about the annual turnover of those companies themselves, because we don't have a lot of companies here that are making a lot of profit because of the economic situation of the country. We were not like a big market where companies can invest millions and make a lot of millions in profits. And so they're kind of also kind of careful about where they put their money in. The third thing for me is about the taxation regime. Because in some of these other countries also, if you invest in sports, it is considered as a non-taxable expenditure. Now, we don't have that. Our current laws do not provide for those kind of exemptions if you invest. So that is one thing that we also have to look at as a Minister of Sports, as a Minister of Finance, and as a government to say when you put in this much money in sports, it will be non-taxable. It will not be seen as any other expenditure. So for me, these are the issues about the mindset, our understanding of sports, is about the economic situation of the country, and it's about the laws and the policies that guide taxes in the country.
Honorable, you also talk about like investing a lot, millions of dollars in international competition, and in return for nothing, because from the last Paris Olympic, none of our athletes won, a medal. So how do you look at this? How do you balance it? Will you continue to invest in international competition and neglect the infrastructural aspect of it? Because this goes hand in hand. Without a good infrastructure, the result will not be, the result we are looking for will be difficult to be attained. So are you balancing this? Can you hear me, Honorable? It seems, Honorable Baji, can you hear me now?
No, yeah, that's one of the things that yeah, I can, I got it. No, yeah, Mr. MK, I think that's a very important question, and I believe us back home, that's what we sat down and reflected, and I've been talking about it for the last couple of months, almost 6-7 months now, since we started since they're drafting this new policy, so that people can prepare their minds, the associations can prepare their minds, that it is not going to be business as usual in terms of our participation at the international level. Because associations will always want to come to us and write letters and say, okay, we have this international competition we want you to support. And we've been trying over the years to support. But now, if they participate and they don't win, I mean, of course, sometimes they win. We've seen beach volleyball doing so well,
Yeah,
wrestling did
yeah,
well,
bringing in, yeah.
football also did well, but sometimes they don't. So when you discuss with them, they will tell you, well, we were exposed to facilities out there that we don't have in the country, and that affected our performance. And these are the excuses. Well, we're not well prepared because we don't have this kind of infrastructure here to prepare ourselves better to be able to participate. So, and this is what I told them now. I said, okay, we understand this. So it's a government's responsibility to develop infrastructure, but our budget is limited. That means now we have to look at what do we prioritize: continue to participate and not win, or develop the infrastructure and then resume participation later. And that is the position that we are taking now, that we are not banning participation. We would be selective in terms of who goes out to participate. If there is a hope that this association has prepared itself enough, then we can definitely support. If not, we would rather spend that money somewhere. And I gave the example. I said, for instance, a single association's participation in international event minimum would be about $3 million, $5 million. That's what we will provide to them. And that's not even football. Football is always 10 million, 15 million. Now, that 5 million can build you a basketball, volleyball court in a particular community. And it benefits more young people than when you just take 10 and take them to participate outside. So understanding this, we want the associations to buy into the idea that we will all have to make some sacrifices to be able to develop our infrastructure, and then look forward to having a lot of talent that we can be able to produce and give more young people the opportunity to participate. And it makes it easy because right now the pool is limited. If you want to take a national team, it's very easy for them to choose because the players, for instance, volleyball also is not many. But in the next 5 years or 4 years, it will be a different thing. And some of them have understood the idea, and we would be looking forward to it. Just to conclude on that, in March, when we participated in the African Games in Accra, the budget was about 40 something. We spent about 32 million. But imagine what that could do, in terms of development infrastructure. So we want to give opportunity as many associations as possible, but we also need to be a little bit more realistic in the investment and be strategic in our investment.
Yeah. For those watching, this is the final take with me, Seni MK Marina, live from our virtual studios here in Seattle. Honorable, last week, you took the president on a tour of the renovated Independence Stadium. This renovation has been going on for over a year now. The last time we understand that the Independence Stadium did not meet the CAF standard to host international game. Can you give us an update about this stadium and how soon will we see a completely renovated Independence Stadium that will host international matches? Because next week or so, the Gambia will play the AFCON qualifiers game, with qualifiers game, which is not likely to happen in the Gambia.
No, no, yes, certainly. They were playing our matches, our two matches in Morocco.
Yeah.
First is Comoros. Comoros is unfortunately in the same situation like Gambia. They don't have a qualified stadium, so they're hosting us in Morocco, and we are also hosting Tunisia in Morocco because of what you said. The work is ongoing. The last time what happened, like I always say, it was not really. CAF didn't come here to look at the stadium and tell us whether it meets the qualification or not. The inspection was our invitation for them to come so that we can tell them what we want to do and their advice. And that was what the mission was about. It was not because we were just at the beginning of the job. We couldn't have expected them to qualify. So they came and observed what we have in plan and then advise us on where we need to improve upon. And that's what is ongoing. So the work, understanding the challenges in financing, we faced it, and not actually us, because the Minister of Works is the one doing the job or supervising the work. So the advice is to phase it into three. The first phase is completed. We are now doing the second phase, and this second phase should have been completed by the end of this August. But because of delays in equipment arrivals and quite a number of other things, administrative procedures at government level, it is extended. So we expect that all of this work would be completed in a month's time. And then the third phase is not really something that we're doing now, because that includes the floodlights and the field, the secondary field where teams will be preparing. But that's not something that CAF requires. It's not something that's major. So the most important thing will be completed soon. And then we hope that we'll be able to get the final inspection and be able to return our matches back. How soon that is going to be, I don't want to give dates, because anytime I give dates, people say, well, you said this the last time. And they don't
Yeah,
understand
they're trying
that
to
I am
hold
not the
you
one who.
accountable because you are the Minister of Youth and Sport. So if you tell us this will be done in a month, we expect it to be done, you know?
No, no, which is true. But, it's like sometimes it's difficult to explain to people to understand. As a minister, it's not my money that is at play. Neither is it even the Minister of Youth and Sport money. We don't have a budget for the stadium. So we depend on funds that are coming from finance, and they provide it based when it is available. So these are things that sometimes people also need to understand. Yes, I take the responsibility as the minister, but I'm not even the one supervising the work. There's another ministry that is supervising the work. So when people blame me for I'm not financing it, neither am I the one supervising the technical aspect. We're just a beneficiary. But we understand. And that's why I said I don't want to give specific dates, because then it becomes an issue, because people's understanding is that when you say December 10, it should be December 10 and nothing beyond that. And construction doesn't work like that, because all of this equipment that they see there are imported from China, from Turkey. Sometimes you have order issues. When you order, it takes time for them to finish it. And when they're done with it. When they ship it, you can estimate that the container can be here in 3 weeks, and then it goes for 6 weeks. These are normal maritime issues that happen in transportation or in logistics and chain supply. But like I said, I mean, the most important thing is government is committed to fixing the stadium. We inherited a 40-year-old problem that was never renovated in the last 40 years that it was constructed, and it was never upgraded to meet any standard. And we have to do renovations that have happened many years ago, and that's what we're trying to do. But it's costly and the capital expenses, but we are committed to it. And the funds are now available, and work is progressing, and we believe that very soon work will be completed, and we will bring our matches back home.
Oh, Honorable, we are left with just a couple of minutes for you. But before I let you go, I have another question. Recently, last year or so, you embarked on a tour identifying a regional stadium, mini stadium. Can you give us update about those mini stadiums in various parts of the country, including the one in Biam and the other one in Soma and the other one in Basse? What is the fate of those mini stadiums?
No, those fields are completed. So the phase that we're doing was completed, because it was focusing mostly on the football aspect, not the other sports, unfortunately. So the construction of the fencing, the change rooms, the boreholes where there is no water access, because most of these communities have access to water, electricity connection, the chain link fence, and the officials room. All of those things have been done, and these are handed over to communities. As we speak, Buyam is using their mini stadium for their tournament. I mean, Nowetan. The same thing with Janjambure, with the same thing with Sandu, and in Kiang Mandua. And Kafuta, unfortunately, is still pending due to some contractual issues. We terminated the first contract, gave it to somebody else, and the person is working. But all of these other areas have been completed and handed over, and they are currently using them. Mboyo Field, which is in Serakunda, is incomplete, but that's the one that we just started last year. That's different from the other ones. And that is also ongoing. Now, that is actually what a proper mini stadium is, because that has all the facilities. It has for football, it has basketball, volleyball, and handball. So that is ongoing, and we hope that we should be able to finish that by the end of this year, and it will be a good, very good mini stadium, standard one for that matter.
Honorable, irregular migration is becoming a big problem in the country. As the Minister of Youth and Sport, do you think that, do you agree with me that the youth allocation in the national budget is too small? Does the need for more investment in youth and sport to deter these young people seeking greener pasture? We have lost a lot of our young people, to the back way, because of lack of job opportunities. What do you think government should do to keep our young people back home and provide them jobs?
Yeah, no, of course, it's a very concerning situation, and personally, and of course by extension, the government is being very concerned about the issues of migration. Unfortunately, it's a very difficult means to control because people move for many reasons, for different reasons. Some of them that travel are actually employed. They're getting a salary, but I guess the salary is small for them. So they leave and think that there is some better opportunities out there, and that's why they leave. And we've lost some of them, unfortunately, on this road. So government has been on it. First is about desensitization so that young people understand that yes, you want to travel, but try to travel by legal means and means that are safe for them. So that's one. The second part is about putting in the policies. Sometime 2 years ago, President launched the new employment policy, which intends to create 150,000 jobs during the
Mhm.
policy period. And we believe that's one of the reasons, ideas to address it. The second part is about the investment in the tertiary education and higher education in general. Upon the completion of the first phase of the University of the Gambia, the government is currently constructing a University of Science and Technology in Bekama, which we believe would transform the educational landscape in terms of shifting a focus from the normal economics, law, developmental story, political science to what the country needs or what the job market needs. And that is TVEC related issues, engineering, masonry, and quite a number of things. This other one is in all the regions in the country now, government is constructing one TVEC center, one TVEC training center. And the idea is to be able to put as many young people there to learn a skill that they can be able to be gainfully employed or to create employment for themselves. So these are some of the strategy in the education sector. Last year in August, President launched the National Youth Service Graduate Program, and that is targeting university students who have finished university, but they are not working, place them in an institution to get the experience for 1 year, and government is paying their stipend with the support of UNDP. And we hope that once they're done with that, they can be able to get employment. And then NYSS, whose picture you just saw now, is one
Mhm.
of those institutions that are under the Ministry of Youth and Sports. On a yearly basis, we recruit about 150 young people for the apprenticeship training program, which is for those who did not go to school or stop at grade 9. And we also recruit on every 2 years the regular batch, which is the 14th batch just graduated. We are in the process of recruiting the 15th batch, and we're increasing the number from 130 to 100 to 200 young people. And all of these would be placed in a tertiary institution. Government pays their stipend, pays their tuition fee for 2 years. And once they graduate, we hope they'll be able to work. So these are some of the opportunities that are created in the employment sector, in the TVEC training, in the other areas. But it's more than that. Probably we need to look at how do we industrialize, how do we encourage more investors to come into
Mhm.
the country, open companies, and get some of our young people employed. So time is not of we don't have a lot of time, but these are in general some of the actions that are taken by government to be able to encourage our young people. But I also want to say there are some opportunities that are available. You say, okay, sometimes yes, it's difficult to explain to these young people about employment, but they must be ready to do the sacrifice. We're talking about the stadium. Stadium struggled to even get workers there
Wow.
to come and do the job. And they were paying laborers like $350 per day, a skilled person $700, but they still have to write on the walls, workers needed, payment daily this. But people are not ready to do those kind of jobs. So it's a little bit difficult also. We must find a way to change the mentality of our young people that if you're not having much, you can start with something. We all started with some of those things, and today we are somewhere else. But that mindset must change, that everybody must work in an office. Some people must be ready to work in the other sectors.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. That's Minister of Youth and Sport, Honorable Bakari Badji, talking to me about the current youth and sport development in the Gambia. Honorable, many thanks for. I wish we can have a longer
Yeah.
conversation, but I have two more guesses on the lineup. But many thanks for joining me from Banjul.
Thank you. Thank you. Hopefully we'll have another time. Then we'll go into detail. But I
Absolutely.
appreciate the time and thanks to all the viewers.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. This is the final take with me, Seni MK Marina. Time to explore the Gambia's foreign policy and global standing. And if there is a need to revive the country's current foreign policy, let's expand this conversation with Gambian scholar, diplomat, and global leader, Professor Dr. Alaji Manta Drame, who join us live from Saudi Arabia. to talk on this important issue. Many thanks for joining us now. How would you describe the current drive to strengthen development cooperation as a key priority of the government foreign policy undertaking, Dr. Drame?
Thank you very much, Mr. Marina, for this kind invitation, and I'm honored to be on this platform with Honorable Minister Baji and our dear sister, Farmuda Solo Sande. And we thank you very much for this very kind invitation. Foreign policy is a very interesting area of international relations and global politics. Gambian foreign policy has gone through an evolution and transformation from independence to now. At independence, we had Deborah Kereba Jawara, who was busy, to strengthen and build institutions after independence in the Gambia. And he did very well in terms of trying to promote good governance in the Gambia. And by doing so, he built a lot of institutions, that promoted, human rights and freedom of speech and pluralism in politics, party politics. And unfortunately, that could not continue with the coming of the junta or the junta in 1994. So there was a rupture between what Sadaura Kebajoro was doing and the new government under the former president of the Gambia, Jammeh. That particular foreign policy was more of a personalized foreign policy, and that isolated the Gambia and led to the Gambia being expelled from some of the international institutions, and like the Commonwealth, and so on and so forth. So there was no developed, doctrine in terms of foreign policy in the Gambia generally, from independence to now, and therefore there is a need to evaluate our foreign policy, because foreign policy is a very dynamic area. It's ever changing. The world is ever changing, and there is a lot of relationship between domestic politics and foreign policy formulation and international relations, and they impact each other. So there is need to institutionalize our foreign policy, to recalibrate our foreign policy, to leverage our national interests. It's all about how to articulate the national interest on the international arena. I remember very well when they were going to do the bombing campaign in Libya, to remove the then Gaddafi. Yes, I remember very well the foreign minister of the United Kingdom at that time said that their immediate interest was to evacuate the British nationals, citizens from Libya. So we see, so the national interest was first, and then other things will come next. So this is what we need to do as well. I think Gambia now our foreign policy is not very clear as well, as it has been always not clear. So there is a need to really map out our foreign policy priorities, within the sub-region, within Africa, the Middle East, for example, and the rest of the world. We forget a lot, about how to employ what I call aggressive foreign policy vis-a-vis our relationship with the Arab world. People forget a lot that demographically, you've got about 70% of Arabs in Africa. 70% of Arabs are in Africa. Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, part of Mauritania, part of Sudan, and the rest in the Middle East. And geographically as well, 20% of the Arab land in Africa. So, but we have not explored that to our benefit. The Gambia, for example, how do we do that? So there's a lot of things, because actually I have developed a theory called cosmopolitan constructivist approach to foreign policy analysis. Foreign policy has been based traditionally on material issues of balance of power. But now what we see in foreign policy, soft power, we call diplomacy, culture, non-material issues. So how can we do that to promote foreign policy? And I think Gambia stands a very good chance. Now the Gambia is the president of the OIC.
Yeah, we will come to that.
Yes, so Gambia stands a good chance really to recalibrate its foreign policy, to make it more aggressive. But then, of course, it's good to have professionals.
Yeah.
Those who know. We should not cheat ourselves. A country cannot go anywhere without knowledge. Knowledge is the foundation of development. Sometime probably I will a little bit differ with the Honorable Minister. I think we always focus on technology and sciences.
Yeah.
But this, what I call the soft infrastructure, the human mind. Of course, yes, again here, the mindset. That comes, through knowledge. You sensitize people, their consciousness, their love of their country, patriotism. All these are non-material issues we need to develop as well in terms of having a very vibrant foreign policy. So we need to have professionals, who know, because international relations or foreign policy is a very dynamic thing, really. A little bit of geography, a little bit of politics and global politics, economics, psychology, sociology. All these things, come together, to formulate and to form foreign policy. So we need to have. It's not a joke, really, developing forein policy. And so we need to. But I'm happy. I was in the Gambia about 2 months ago. I saw some young people, some young trained, officials, diplomats, foreign policy, which is a good thing. In the long run, if that continues, if that trend continues, I think we can transform. There should be an architecture. Yes.
Doctor, you have been involved in international affairs for quite a long. You live in Saudi Arabia. You work with the Arabs. You live in London. What can we do, for Gambia to have its rightful place in the world, in the world politics and diplomacy? Because recent happening in our diplomatic missions, across the world is not very impressive. We have seen diplomats fighting each other instead of positioning the country into international spotlight. What can we do to put the Gambia right back in the international arena? As you rightly stated that during Sadauda time, our diplomats were doing well, they were respected, the country image was good. So what can we do, in that aspect as a seasoned diplomat and a global leader?
Thank you very much, Mr. Marino, for that question. I think it's a very pertinent and relevant question vis-a-vis the current situation of the Gambia. What we need to do first is to professionalize and institutionalize foreign policy. It's not a personal issue, it's a national issue. And there need to be people who are sincere, who are honest, who are patriotic. They love their country. And diplomats are there to leverage the interests of their country wherever they go. As I said, UK, when they were going to Libya, when they were going to Afghanistan, they were going anywhere, they make sure that their interests were protected. They came to Sierra Leone in 1990s, again, because of British interest in that country. And so we need to have, but that will not happen unless there's a level of knowledge and experience, in diplomacy, knowledge of the area, the culture of the people. Particularly, I think we haven't done a good job in terms of our relations with the Arab world. You know, at least you need to have some people there who know the culture of the Arabs, they know the language, and they can communicate very well, and they can articulate Gambian interests in those countries. I would envisage if we would have a diplomat in China, that particular party should be at least have an understanding of the Chinese culture, the Chinese people. And also we've got to make priorities. I was very shocked to learn that the Gambia, stopped having its development mission in Malaysia, for example. I was in Malaysia. I spent 7 years in Malaysia, both as a student, as a lecturer at the university there. And we had many Gambians who came and studied in Malaysia, and many of them became ministers. Dominic Mendy, was the Minister of Finance. The later Ali Jammeh, my old brother, was there in Malaysia. And many others. Professor Umar Jah, then Deputy Vice Chancellor of the University, now the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Health, was in Malaysia. And Lamin Manjang was in Malaysia. Many lawyers, many Gambian lawyers today, Lawyer Kamara, Alaj Kurang, they all went to Malaysia. Yeah. So we should know how to even have our development missions, where and why. These are important questions. And who? Where should we have the mission? Who should we have there? And why we should have them there? Malaysia is a very strategic country, and they have given a lot of scholarship to the Gambian people. Many of whom have occupied very senior positions in the Gambia and outside the Gambia. So we should actually have a very careful study of our strategy. There should be a doctrine, a foreign policy doctrine, a foreign policy strategy. What is strategy? And why should we have that strategy? And who should implement that particular strategy? So these are some of the key questions that we need to answer to be able to have a very vibrant and good foreign policy around.
Why do you say we should focus our relation with the Arabs more? Because Gambia has a lot of diplomatic missions, and some of them are not even doing what they're supposed to do. Do you think that we need to scratch some of these missions, and have a sizable, effective foreign missions, that will cater for Gambia's image and bring in corporations, and development back home?
Absolutely, this is what I'm saying. I mean, not only that we've got traditional allies, in the United Kingdom, France, United States of America, and so on and so forth. But also, we need to also look to other areas. South-South cooperation.
Yeah.
China, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia. I don't think we have any mission in Indonesia or in Malaysia, and these are very strategic countries. Indonesia is the biggest Muslim country around the world. And Malaysia is a model of development. How Malaysia has developed very fast. And so we can learn from these people. In the Arab world, we have a mission in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, as far as I know, and also I think in Qatar and the UAE. So we should review, these missions around the world in terms of the benefits they bring to the country, the image they make, the good image of the Gambia they present, all these things. So we have to have able technocrats, able policymakers, able diplomats who will be able to aggressively fight for the national interests of the Gambia.
Because the Gambia is only country, I will say, without a diplomatic academy. When you go to other countries, you will find a diplomatic academy where young professionals from the university will undertake special trainings to become career diplomats. If we are to advise the government of the Gambia in terms of foreign policy, what advice will you give them in that aspect?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we need to have an institute that would train diplomats. Diplomacy doesn't mean where to stand, how to stand, what to address. These are small technical issues in diplomacy, but substantive issues of knowledge of the area, of the art of diplomacy, negotiation, you the art of how do you articulate the interests of your country, how do you attract investors, how do you get things from other countries to your country, how to get scholarships, how to get scholarships, from countries, you know. In Turkey, for example, Turkey now is an important country. I'm happy that the Gambia now. Of course, the Gambia has always had a very good relationship with Turkey. The Turkish people have trained Gambian military people as well.
And
But we
also
should,
India, yeah.
yes, India as well. India, of course, in India, medicine and so on and so forth. So we need to also look, towards South, South cooperation. I think we've been very much looking towards United Kingdom, these big countries, and but Canada do, more than those countries, Saudi Arabia does a lot. Saudi Arabia offers a lot of scholarships to the Gambian people. It has been offering scholarships to many Gambians for many, 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 many years. Since our independence, I could say many Gambians studied here. But we could do better, to have different scholarships for different fields, different expertise, training. So we need to have a training institute or academy that will train our diplomats. I remember very well, Malaysia has an institute for training diplomats. So Gambians used to come there. Because Gambia used to have a technical cooperation with Malaysia. I don't know whether this still is
Still
there.
is in existence. I'm not sure.
Yes, and the Gambians used to go there. Gambian diplomats used to go there to study, for 1 year. Some go there for a couple of months, and then go back. And they also used to give technical scholarships to the Gambia as well. And they used to have very good scholarships as well for the Gambians. I don't know whether this is still there. So we need to reactivate and stimulate some of these relationships that we have. Some of them are dormant, and we need to reactivate them, so that for the benefit of the Gambia. I think so. We need to have an academy really to train Gambian diplomats really about diplomacy, and about relations with countries, and about the culture, because these are very important things. That's why I was, making allusion to what I call non-material issues in diplomacy. The culture of the people. You respect the culture of the people. How can you respect a culture if you don't know the culture? So I think we need to do all this very interesting training. Somebody told me, one of my teachers told me a long time ago, culture is something you cannot rationalize. It's culture. It's my culture.
Yeah,
Your culture
right.
is better than my culture. So we need to know all this in diplomacy as well. So I hope this is something that we need to do, and also to make it an institution. It's not look at the United Kingdom, look at America. It doesn't matter who comes. You don't need to have a very intelligent president to run America or to run the United Kingdom, but you need to have very strong institutions, really.
Yeah.
And this is what they have, and this is what we lack. Institutions will be there regardless of who comes and who goes. The fundamental issues will not change. There are small things here and there, plus minus will change, but the fundamental issues of the foreign policy will not change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Drame, another question before I let you go, because we are almost running out of time. I have a final guest after you. But before then, I will ask you one or two questions before I let you go. Our Foreign Affairs Minister, Dr. Mamadou Tangara, is vying for the Commonwealth Secretary General. And then he is currently canvassing votes across the country, Africa and elsewhere. What do you think about Dr. Tangara's candidature to be the Secretary General of Commonwealth as a former diplomat and an international specialist?
Yes, Tangara is. I've met him only once when I was at OIC summit last May, but I haven't got a close relationship with him. But from far, as scholars, we read, we analyze, we observe, I think he's a seasoned diplomat. He's a knowledgeable person. His track record can testify to that. Before even he joined the government for the ministry, and he's bilingual, and he's worked at some institutions before. So let's proud of the Gambians really to have a Gambian at the head of the Commonwealth. And Commonwealth is a very big institution that brings under its fold many countries, big countries. And if a Gambian would be at the head of that institution, I hope the Gambian interest will also be at the heart of that particular person. So we wish him all the best for his candidature as the Secretary General of the Commonwealth. It's a good thing. It's going to be pride for the Gambians and the Gambia as a whole, I think.
Okay. Dr. President Barrow is also elected as the chairman of the OIC, which you work with in Saudi Arabia. What is this an opportunity for our country to, explore, international partnerships and corporations? What do Gambia stand to benefit from the OIC chairmanship as Barrow take the mantle of leadership in May earlier this year in May?
Thank you very much, Mr. Marina. Gambia, the smiling coast of Africa. I was in the flight going to the Gambia late April to participate in the OIC summit. I was reading the mood of the people on the flight. Going to Gambia. Some don't even know Gambia. Some haven't heard about Gambia. If you say Gambia, they say Zambia. So yes, if you say Gambia, they say Zambia. You don't know. Yes, Gambia. We're actually Senegal. We are inside Senegal. Yeah. And they, oh, Senegal. But now, having this summit, I think now the Gambia has been put on the global spotlight, the global map, really. And now they know the Gambia, they know the Gambian people, and the Gambian hospitality, really. They were really impressed, with the way the Gambians received them. Gambians, naturally, Gambians are very hospitable people, very kind, very nice, and this they enjoyed, So I hope this will translate in the foreign policy as well. And being the president of OIC, OIC has 57 members from different countries. 57 members. It is the second largest institution after the United Nations.
Wow, it's huge.
It's huge. If you're outside, you don't know. But now I'm inside that organization, I can see the potential of the OIC, what OIC can do. The demography, the geography, the money, the people, the expertise. Gambia now being the president, of course, will share many of OIC's, activities. And Gambia will be participating in all the OIC activities. And now they have the foreign ministers of OIC to be held in Yaoundé, in Cameroon. The Gambia will go there as well. So this is an opportunity for the Gambia to really foster for a vibrant foreign policy, to attract investors from all the regions, and to see where they can benefit, from the complementary efforts of the countries, in science and technology. For example, there are countries, Uzbekistan, for example. These are new countries, but they've been with the United, for example, Soviet Union. They are very well into technology and science. Tajikistan, Turkey, Malaysia, so we can learn, Iran, Saudi Arabia, there are many other countries that we can benefit from in terms of expertise, in terms of knowledge, in terms of scholarships, in terms of investment. So there are a lot of opportunities for the Gambia now to having conferences, lobby for conferences to be held in the Gambia as well. So these are all areas that I think that we can explore to develop
leverage,
interest, and leverage the government interest.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's Dr. Alaji Manta Drame, a Gambian scholar, diplomat, and a global leader, speaking to me live from Saudi Arabia about the country's foreign policy and the way forward. Dr. Drame, thank you so much for joining us
Thank,
on this
thank
important
you very much.
discussion.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
I'm very pleased and honored. Thank you.
Thank you. You are watching the final take with me, Seni Marena, 2 years after the completion of hearing in the Country Truth Commission and the development of a government-wide paper on TRRC recommendation. The Gambia is advancing effort to implement key deliverables of the transitional justice. It's a long road that includes reconciliation, reparation for victims who are still seeking more action, especially towards bringing Jammeh to justice. Let's bring in Fatoumata Sandem, former spokesperson of the Jammeh to Justice Movement and CEO of Solo Sandem Foundation, who joined us live from German to discuss the trial of jungler Michael Korea in the United States. Now, Fatoumata, many thanks for joining us. Take us through the immediate of the victims in their quest for justice. How is the government working to address these challenges?
Hi, Saini. How are you? Thank you very much for
Yes.
having me. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for having me, and thanks to everyone who's watching. Yes, like you rightly mentioned, it's been some while after the completion of the Truth Commission, and also after the government issuing the white paper on the implementation of the recommendations of the Truth Commission, and now we are at the phase of implementation. But outside of the Gambia, we also see a couple of universal jurisdiction cases happening, which include the trial of Bailo, a former jungler, here in Germany, also in Switzerland, the former Interior Minister Usman Sonko, who was also convicted. And now in September, from the 16th of September to the 27th, in Denver, Colorado, we would have another trial of another runaway jungler, Michael Sankoria, which would take place in the US. And we are looking forward to that as well and hoping that it goes well for victims, just like the previous two did.
Okay, well, how does this inspire ongoing effort to effectively bring Jammeh and his cronies to justice 27 years after his downfall?
It is so basically, victims have been waiting for prosecutions of their perpetrators, right? In the Gambia, even though the process is ongoing, and we commend the Ministry of Justice for doing a great job, and then they are involving civil society, involving victims, also letting us know where the implementation stage is at. But unfortunately, we could not still have, aside from the NIA 9 case, and maybe Yankuba Ture, which was not actually directly a case that was brought in because of the things, but we all know how that went down. Let's say aside from the NIA9 case, we have not yet seen a concrete prosecution in court with regard to these junglers, some of whom live in the Gambia and some outside the Gambia, but very close to the Gambia, like Equatorial Guinea, like Guinea-Bissau. Like, you don't know, like they're even in Africa. You have some of them, just like Michael Corey, just like Bailo, just like Osman Sonko, who ran, who seeking asylum elsewhere. And then the fact that even the closest people to Jammeh and his closest aides, such as Osman Sonko, were able to be arrested and tried, and victims being given the justice that they deserve, even if it is not close to home, shows that justice would prevail, even if not home, that the world is watching and the world cares about the rights of victims, especially in the Gambia. The concept of universal jurisdiction, I would say, is a salvation for Gambian victims, because it is only through that, for now, that we are seeing prosecutions on their behalf and for the perpetration of their rights, even though it is outside of the Gambia.
So do you think that these prosecutions outside of the Gambia of three of Jammeh's closest allies is a step towards accountability and closure for victims like you, whose father was brutally murdered on a broad daylight in 2016?
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, victims, like I said, have been waiting for justice for so long. Many victims have died waiting to get justice, waiting to get reparations, but they hurt every time, every day, every moment, knowing that they're still living and their perpetrators are at large. But then hearing these news, these stories, witnessing these prosecutions, even though they're outside of the country, gives them hope and relief and closure that those people are being held responsible. Even if my perpetrator, direct perpetrator, is not held responsible now, or is in Bailo or Usman Sonko or Michael Sankoria, but then I am assured of the fact that he would be caught one day. And generally, victims really feel for one another. If a perpetrator is prosecuted and convicted, it is victory for every other Gambian. It is victory for every other victim. And it gives closure, it gives hope to the victims that justice is still alive. Justice would come no matter how late it takes.
Okay, we will take a break and play the video documentary on the trial of Michael Sankoria in Denver, Colorado, produced by your organization, Solo Sandem Foundation and ANEC. So we'll play that video right away, and after that, I will ask you a couple of questions.
All right.
Yes, I'm trying to play the video right now so that people can watch it. Oh, there you go.
The 22-year dictatorship of former Gambian President Yahya Jammeh from 1994 to 2016 was marked by widespread human rights violations, including enforced disappearances, torture, extrajudicial killing, sexual violence, and arbitrary detention. Many of these crimes were allegedly carried out by the Junglers, a notorious death squad under the Presidential Guard, though reported directly to Jammeh. One of them was Michael Sang Korea. Korea, native of Berending village in the Gambia, joined the Gambia Armed Forces on the 28th of February in the year 2000 and allegedly received specialized jungler training at Kanilai, the home village of Yahya Jammeh in the Gambia in 2004. He was promoted to captain during the time he served as jungler. According to testimonies given at the Gambia Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission, TRRC, then Captain Michael Correa was among the band of junglers responsible for the arbitrary arrests and torture of persons interrogated by the panel investigating the alleged failed coup in 2006, namely Officers Bunja Dabo, Wassa Kamara, Yaya Dabo, John Pierre Mendy, Faring Sanyang, Mamadou Babadi Sarr, Mamadou Aliou Ba, and civilians Sheikh Omar Fall, Aliou Job, Demba Dem, and Tamsir Jase. Korea is also alleged to be among those criminally responsible for the unlawful killings of Daba Marena, Malafikor, Ibulo, Alfaba, Aliou Cisse, Masi Jame, Julia Maku, Mahmoud Cisse, Suleiman Soldau, and Mahawa Cham. Korea was first arrested on September 17, 2019, in Denver, Colorado, for overstaying his visa. Following news of his detention, a coalition of human rights organizations and Korea's victims, including the Center for Justice and Accountability, CJA, the African Network Against Extrajudicial Killings and Enforced Disappearances, ANECAD, the Gambia Center for Victims of Human Rights Violations, the Guernica Center for International Justice, Human Rights Watch, Solo Sandeng Foundation, and Trial International called on the United States to investigate the credible allegations of grave international crimes committed by Korea in the Gambia. On February 18, 2020, U.S. Senators Patrick Leahy and Richard Dobbin also urged the government to investigate Korea and, if warranted, to prosecute him in the United States. On June 11, 2020, Correa was indicted on 6 counts of torture and 1 count of conspiracy to commit torture, alleging that Correa and other junglers severely beat their victims with plastic pipes, wires, and branches, suffocated them with plastic bags, dripped molten plastic and acid on their bodies, and subjected them to electric shocks, causing severe pain and suffering. The trial of Michael Sang Correa is scheduled to take place between 16th and 27th September 2024 at the Alfred A. Araj Courthouse in Denver, Colorado, USA. Correa could receive a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison for each count if found guilty. In total, he could face up to 140 years in prison. The prosecution of Michael Correa, like that of Bailo in Germany and Usman Sonko in Switzerland, represents an important step towards justice and accountability for crimes against humanity. These prosecutions demonstrate the importance of universal jurisdiction in recognizing that when such crimes are committed, they are committed against all people of the world, regardless of their nationality.
Thank you very much, Fatumata. That's a very, very interesting, video about the role Michael Sankoria and other junglers play in creating human rights violation against innocent Gambians. Fatumata, you and your organization produced this insightful video. Tell us, what's your inspiration?
Firstly, I would say that Solo Sanding Foundation is collaborating with ANICED with funding from the Center for Justice and Accountability based in the United States, that's also representing most of the victims of Korea in the trial. And the aim is to disseminate as much information about the trial as possible to Gambians, because trials happening outside of the Gambia do not feel so Gambian if Gambians do not know what is going on and if they are not adequately informed about who's being tried, what did he do, who was his victims, when is the trial going on, such things, because they need to know, get involved, get timely updates of the trial so they feel like the trial was for them. Right. So these are all important things. That is the reason why we thought, and the video is obviously in Mandinka, Wolof as well, so that we can have exactly local language, because most victims are really Wolof and Mandinka speakers. You have victims that understand English, but the most part do understand the local language. That is why we thought it is for them, and the best thing to do is to translate these videos so that they can know what is going on, what his counts are, how is the trial going to happen, and hopefully after the trial we also hope to have the same explanations to the victims so that they understand what the verdict is, how did it go, why did it happen, what was he convicted of. So the inspiration is, as always, bringing Jammeh, his accomplices, to justice and making sure that perpetration of rights of human beings do not take place in the Gambia again. And perpetrators learn that no matter where they go, no matter what they do, they would be held responsible. And that goes for those who have done these crimes and run away, those already in power, and those coming in at any time. That Gambia is not a place to perpetrate such crimes ever again. So we are upholding the never again mantra and hoping that when we go for these perpetrators and prosecute them, find them guilty, others outside, or they would know that justice is coming for them, of course, and also those inside the Gambia, who's also in position now, and those coming would know that you only treat people right and do not violate their rights.
Absolutely. Fatmata Sunday, we are almost at the end of this program, but before I let you go, my final question. A special court aimed at prosecuting former President Jammeh is also in work. Are you hopeful of a breakthrough someday, that Jammeh will have his day in court, as in the case of Michael Sankoria, Bailo, and Usman Sonko?
I mean, one of the most brutal dictators have really been caught at some point and been tried. One of them is Hissène Habré, right? He had committed almost the same crimes like Jammeh did, or even more. But someday his victims stood and testified, and they got the justice that they deserve. No one would have thought that Usman Sonko, for example, as high and so long that he served in the government of Jammeh, would be tried so quickly, would be, no one had thought that. Well, if that happens, there is no doubt in my mind and in the mind of victims that no matter how long it takes, like our Chadian victim friends would say, it took us many, many, many years, over 20 years and stuff, before we could bring Hissène Habré to justice. And if you guys believe in the cause, this would happen one day. Jammeh would be brought to justice. And of course, there is no need to lose hope. It might not be today or tomorrow, but someday perpetrators would be brought to justice.
Many thanks. That's Fatoumata Sandem, former spokesperson of the Jammeh to Justice movement and CEO and founder of Solo Sandem Foundation, discussing the trial of Jungler Sam Michael Korea and ongoing efforts to prosecute Jammeh-era crime. She's speaking to me live from her base in German. Fatoumata, many thanks for joining the Alcamba Times on this important
Thank you for having me, Seni. Thanks.
Bye. Wherever you are watching, this is the final take with me, Seni MK Marina, live from our virtual studios here in Seattle. Many thanks for joining us, and then we will see you next week with more interesting conversation along the way. Many thanks once again for joining us. Do have a pleasant weekend. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Tune into the final take with MK Marina every